Hello there folks, my name is Spoonks and welcome back to an episode of Box Office Chat. This is the show where I break down the top 5 domestic box office results, see where each movie landed, and see how well each movie did. So let's get started. Number 5 was Reminders of Him, making $8 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $33 million and a worldwide total of $54 million. So it appears that the movie was a bit more on the front-loaded side of things. It didn't drastically fall, but it fell quite a bit, falling 56% from last weekend. I think there was just a lot out this weekend, and obviously some of the response and reactions has been a bit more on the divisive side, but still, given the fact that the film was only $25 million, it's already doubled that worldwide. It surpassed that domestically, and I still think because it's one of the few romantic movies out right now, I think it's still going to appeal to its core audience. And again, you know, Colleen Hoover, she does have her fans. Again, her name carries a lot of weight. I still think this is going to surpass Regretting You. It's just not going to reach the heights of It Ends With Us. But again, I don't think they were expecting it to. Just the fact that it's done as well as it has already, I think no one's like really worrying too much about how this movie's doing right now. Now, if it continues to fall off, then yeah, then there's going to be some questions and concerns. But as for right now, even though, yeah, again, the film fell a bit more than expected, I don't think this is anything to like really get worrisome over. It's still doubled its budget. It's still on the right track. Again, it's only in its second weekend. I still think this movie's gonna leg out pretty well and be a nice solid hit for the studio. Number 4 was Ready or Not 2, Here I Come, opening with $9 million this weekend domestically and $11 million worldwide. This is the 6th biggest opening for a horror film this year. It topped Undertone, but it still sits behind Primate, 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, Iron Lung, Send Help, and Scream 7. It is also slightly above the first film's $8 million opening back in 2019. I didn't really discuss this movie last week. I didn't think it was going to bomb. I actually had a lot of hope that it would beat the first film's opening, but not by much. I know the trailer was really, really popular and horror has been thriving right now. But I just wasn't sure if the fan base has grown to the degree like some other horror franchises, you know, like Terrifier, or definitely not Scream, but you know, it's the only other horror sequel I compare it to right now. But I wasn't sure if the love for it had grown to that degree, and it seemed like it grew, but again, not to that degree that we saw for some other horror franchises. You know, it opened above, but only slightly. I didn't see too much buzz or hype on this movie like some other horror films, and so it caused it to be, you know, come in slightly under expectations for some people. And I also think, like a lot of these long-awaited sequels, I think they waited a bit too long to get this off the ground. Had it come out a bit closer to that first film, I think the hype would have been much stronger here. But it's still not a bad opening, far from it anyway. The budget was only $14 million. It's already made a majority of that back, and the response seems to be pretty positive. You know, not the most amazing thing in the world, but people are enjoying it. Critics are liking it good enough. It's at a 75% on Rotten Tomatoes, not too shabby, and audiences feel the same. It got a B+ on CinemaScore, which is actually above a lot of the recent horror films that came out this year. Only other horror movie it's on par right now is with Send Help, and it's also on par with the first film, so hopefully it has the same legs as that movie did. There is a very similar movie to this coming out this weekend, but slight spoiler, I'm not expecting much for that movie either. So the only other major horror movie isn't until The Mummy in April, so it's got some time to leg out and bring more revenue to itself, if you know what I mean. Again, I think the response is there, and certainly the fans are eager to go check this out. But again, you know, nothing too spectacular, nothing too big here to indicate, oh wow, this has really become quite the horror franchise. No, it's pretty much stayed in the same vein, but you know, not a terrible start either. Number 3 was Durandar The Revenge, opening with $10 million this weekend, and since it opened on Thursday, it adds to a domestic total of $14 million and a worldwide total of $81 million. Another one of these Bollywood movies shaking up the top 5, and really shaking up the top 5, because this is a sequel to a movie that was released just a couple of months ago, just early December, and when that movie opened in the States, it opened to just a little under $2 million. So the fact that this this was able to get to $10 million is really, really impressive, let alone the fact that it was able to beat out Ready or Not 2 and the second weekend of Reminders of Him. It really shows that that first movie really resonated with a lot of people, and many were excited to see the sequel. It's certainly a much more anticipated movie than I think many people were expecting. And as I always say, whenever these movies pop up in the top 5, always nice to see one of these little surprises, or in this case, big surprise, I should say, I apologize, really shake things up. It's nice little diversity, again, showcasing that, moviegoers will go see something that isn't just made in the States. If they are interested or curious to go check something like this out, they will. And again, always nice to see one of these surprises shake up the top 5. But again, like I always say with these movies, don't expect really strong legs with these. These tend to be very, very front-loaded. They play to their audiences during that first week, and I'm not even sure how long this one's going to be in theaters, so don't expect it to be in the theatrical market for a while now. Don't expect strong legs, but again, kudos to everybody involved with this. The fact that this movie increased to the extent it did, and being one of the top 3 biggest films of the weekend is definitely a big accomplishment. So again, props and kudos to everybody involved. Number 2 was Hoppers, making $17 million this weekend, bringing its domestic total to $120 million and its worldwide total to $242 million. So Hoppers, despite losing number 1, is still holding strong, holding well. It only fell around 37%. Not a bad place to be, especially when a lot of the PLF screens got taken away by a pretty big movie. This is still the big family movie to see right now. Lots of people enjoying it, going out to see it. The word of mouth has been very, very strong, especially for a recent animated movie. Again, it has surpassed almost every single animated movie that came out last year. Just recently surpassed Dogman. It's on its way to surpass Demon Slayer domestically. It's definitely not getting to Zootopia 2, but still really impressive stuff, especially for an original animated film this decade. It's the 3rd original to surpass 100 million this decade domestically. It sits $7 million behind Migration and roughly $30 million behind Elemental. And even with Mario on the horizon, I think it's going to easily surpass the both of them. Again, just the hype surrounding this and the word of mouth has just been so electric. But it's not just domestically. Worldwide, this has also been quite the juggernaut. It's about to crack 250 million worldwide and should get to 400 million worldwide very soon as well. Again, even with Mario on the horizon, I think that's going to definitely hurt it more than domestically speaking, but it should still get to that milestone. Again, just a lot of people really enjoying and responding very well for this movie. Again, a much needed rebound. Again, not just for Pixar, but animation in general, especially considering the lackluster numbers they had last year outside of some big tentpole movies. This is definitely a big success story for sure, and I think it's still got enough juice in the tank to keep growing. So yeah, Hoppers clearly still a huge hit for sure. And finally, let's end the video off with the number 1 movie of the weekend, which was Project Hail Mary, opening with $80 million this weekend domestically and $140 million worldwide. This is, of course, the biggest opening of the year thus far, topping Scream 7, Hoppers, Wuthering Heights, and Goat. Yeah, not too surprised here, folks. I thought this movie would deliver, and it really did. Just the marketing, the legacy of the book, the star power, the talent involved, the acclaim it's gotten from critics, just everything seemed to play into this movie's favor. And again, it really did. This really seemed like the first big blockbuster to see this year. Obviously, we had some surprises throughout the year: Wuthering Heights, Goat, Scream 7, even Send Help, also obviously most recently Hoppers, and even Reminders of Him. But we haven't had this big blockbuster with all of these special effects, this level of scope and scale, since probably Avatar, and a lot of people were yearning for something like that. And again, this movie filled that void for a lot of people. It also helps that the movie is really good. Again, a lot of people are really enjoying this. I've said this already, but critics are loving this. Last I checked, it was at a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. absolutely stellar reviews, and like I said last weekend, there's already super early conversations about how this is going to play into next year's Oscars. It is really that well received, and audiences are loving it as well. It got an A on CinemaScore, on par with some other well received movies like Hoppers and Goat most recently. So yeah, again, I'm expecting some very, very strong legs for this going forward. The big question is, surprisingly, how this is going to do up against Mario, because while these are definitely different types of movies, they're certainly like big mega blockbusters, and I'm curious to see how both of those will factor into each other and how that will affect this movie. Even though one is definitely more of a kids movie, this is a sci-fi action film, so that'll be interesting. But again, given that I still think they're different enough to where they will be able to coexist with one another. I mean, again, one of them's animated, the other one isn't. But yeah, again, this is just an excellent start for Project Hail Mary. Even with the high production cost, this is a $190 to a $200 million movie. I mean, it's already at $140 million worldwide, so it's already made a majority of that back. And again, given the strong response we've seen from audiences and the word of mouth, I think this is going to definitely soar to some really strong heights in the future. So yeah, an excellent start for Project Hail Mary. And those were your top 5 domestic box office results for this weekend, and normally this will be the part of the video where I discuss the upcoming new wide releases and seeing where they would land in the top 5, but it's looking like a pretty slower weekend. The only big new movie is They Will Kill You, and I haven't seen much buzz or marketing for that movie, so not expecting much for that film. I think it'll shake up the top 5, but not by much. So it's definitely going to be the calm before the storm with Mario the week after. So don't expect a whole lot of changes or big significant numbers this weekend. But we'll see how well the movies that land in the top 5 and where they land in the top 5 on the next Box Office Chat. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of Box Office Chat. What did you all think of the results? Were you satisfied, unsatisfied? Comment down below and let me know. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you like this channel, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on all the social media links right there. And until next time, everyone, stay sharp.